Picture the scene. Mogadishu airport. There's an old plane on the side of the runway shot down by a missile which embedded itself in the side of the plane but failed to go off. African Union troops are all around, surrounded by tanks, pickup trucks with heavy machine guns bolted on, anti-aircraft guns. The people using the airport, basically local politicians and peacekeepers, the occasional journalist, and Mike Spencer Bown, Canadian tourist. That's right. I spoke to him a short while ago. What was he thinking?
I've been traveling for the better part of 18 years, living out of my backpack, and the amount of places on Earth that I've visited is really getting down. So there's just a few left to see, and I always wanted to see Mogadishu. Especially, I think it was a BBC program once about a guy who went to Mogadishu, and it seemed like he had a pretty fun time, and he had to hire a whole bunch of machine gunners to guard him. But he went down to the port and out and about. But it turned out when I arrived that the situation has worsened since then, and people have to hide now if you're a non-Somali.
What did the immigration people think when you bowled up?
Well, they thought it was hilarious, actually, most of them. But there's one guy, he did a really good job. I mean, it was his job to make sure that, no one crazy is coming in or nothing too unusual is happening. But he was trying to throw me back on the plane. But it took him a while to arrange this, and in the process, I managed to, I guess it's kind of a fine line, I managed to convince him that I'm crazy enough that I actually want to be a tourist in Mogadishu, but not, a complete burk who'd cause trouble when I was there. So, it may have been a bit of luck, or perhaps I convinced him, it's hard to say, but he did let me stay as long as I followed the rules.
And what were the rules?
Well, the rules are, everyone there, I was talking to a foreigner there, and he was telling me that if you're not a Somali, you've got to slink around like you're a mouse. So, within, cars with tinted windows, loads of guards everywhere if you have to go from place to place, and essentially you're trying to avoid people knowing where you're staying. Because there is, it's not like the, I've been in Baghdad as well during the war, and there they hadn't set up the green zone yet, but after then they did have a green zone where you could actually walk around. But here there's no green zone because it can be infiltrated with Al-Shabaab or Hezbollah Islam, and there's a little bit of sniping going on too. And one of the guys in Peace Hotel where I was staying, he was telling me that one of the most dangerous things is when guards there have to kill the driver of a vehicle. They've got a machine gun quite a lot at chest level, and the bullets tend to just go everywhere throughout the town.
You found a hotel then?
Yeah, I did. In fact, a guy named Bashir, who owns the Peace Hotel, talked on my behalf and said, okay, I'll take care of this tourist. He never heard there could possibly be a tourist coming, but he said, yeah, I'll take care of him. I'll be responsible for him. So, I managed to have a really good time at his hotel. It's a fun place.
Did you leave the hotel much, or were you confined to barracks, as it were?
Well, somewhat confined. I only had the two drives through town, and this was in the usual way, like tinted windows and with the guards. It cost $50 actually to go somewhere, so I'm not even sure if it's in my budget to go around town. But truth be told, they actually don't control very much of the city. I thought they had a little bit more than they did, but it turns out that they only have the airport, which is essential for running the government. And they have a few hotels and just a couple roads and the presidential palace. And the rest of it is all various groups like Hezbollah Islam and Al-Shabaab and whatnot.
Just to explain, when you say they, you're talking about the UN, really, or the African Union peacekeepers?
Yeah, the government and the African Union that are supporting them. So, it's quite a small faction. If you look at the various political factions that own the area, the government's quite small.
What did the Somalis make of you? I mean, when you bowled up in his hotel, for instance?
Yeah, well, everyone thought it was quite funny, actually. So, everyone was having a good laugh. And as for the Somalis, I met a lot of really intelligent and interesting Somalis.
I think I have to put this question to you. Many people have been kidnapped in Somalia. Some of them are still being held years later. Their friends and family are trying to get them out. They're very anxious. You are taking an obvious risk in doing this, and a risk for not just for yourself, but for others.
Well, I guess it is a little bit risky, but in a way the situation is quite absurd, because it reminds me of when I was in Palawan in the Philippines once, and I saw a bunch of dead fish up on the beach, and there was a fisherman there. And clearly the dead fish were from dynamite fishing. And I asked him, why are you dynamiting your own reef? Because you'll run out of fish. And he said, well, I'm not dynamiting my own reef. I'm in the middle of the night, I roll over to the other guy's reef and dynamite that reef. And I said, well, why is there dead fish on your beach? He said, well, he's doing the same to me. He's rolling back, dynamiting my reef, and we pass each other in the middle of the night. And a lot of the guys along the coast are doing the same thing. And it's similar with this kidnapping, because when you pay your $1 million ransom, you're actually paying for the kidnapping, imprisonment, and torture of the next person.
So what are you saying? That if you were kidnapped, you wouldn't want anyone to pay for you, and you just stay put?
No, certainly not. And also, the Canadian government doesn't pay ransoms, and I think they're actually pretty firm on that. I think there's a Canadian woman now being held, and her ransom has not been paid. Whereas with the French, I mean, there's another hotel there where I heard that 2 French agents were kidnapped out of that, I think last year. And one of them went to Hezbollah Islam, and he managed to get free, probably with $1 million ransom. And then the other one went to Al-Shabaab, who are a little bit more serious, and maybe they wanted more money, I don't know, but he's still being held.
Mike, Spencer Bown there, mouse like a tourist, philosopher,